From IC 2019 onwards, users have had the ability to import, manage, and visualize array data as part of their wider interpretation. This workflow will show users how to import that FMI data and how to start visualizing it on your charts. The most common workflow for this is to start in a petrophysics software such as IP, either then export the image and import into IC, or if using an IP-IC common database, create a finalized FMI curve and then visualize that straight away within IC. So moving to IP quickly, let's have a look at that. So this is a combined database that I have between IP and IC, where I have my array data that I've been working with, and I've done my image analysis. I now have my completed data here. So within IP, what is being visualized right now is actually a collection of array curves. So for every single pad, you will have an array curve that relates to the tool used. You can visualize each individual curve or pad within IC as an individual track. However, when working with the data as part of your interpretation, you want to visualize it as it is right now within IP. To do that, you need to create a combined finalized curve. So that's what we're going to do now. So looking at my data here, I'm happy with that. I'm going to come up to my image analysis, go to manage my tools. I can see this is the one I've been working with, and I'm just going to export that as a curve. So that then opens the export image tool to curve window. So I'm going to make sure that the well that I want to create the finalized curve for is present, that the tool is also selected. I'm then going to create an output set or select a location for that curve to be created. So if I come down here, I can see that I already have one that I can select. So I'm going to check that the values are correct. I'm going to make sure that the normalization histogram method is equal area, and that the normalization method here again is static. If I'm happy with those settings, I will then export like so. Once the image export is complete, please remember to save your well or your wells to the database and then refresh the database within IC to pick up the new changes. This is if you're using an IP to IC common database. If you are using separate databases, however, if you export that curve, you can then re-import that curve into IC using the dlist loader, and it will then be available for use. To add this data to your chart, what I'm going to do is come to my single well stick that I prepared earlier, and I can insert that directly into a data panel. So instead of going to my curve and selecting the individual curve, what I'm going to do is go to my composite and select array log. So the first thing I need to do is select the curve that I've just created, which is my FMI final. I can then select the style that I wish to display it by. So you've got the three options: gradient, stacked, and waveform. So typically for an FMI image, I will use a gradient. For other types of array, you may wish to use a stacked or waveform option. So sticking with gradient for the time being. I now want to select the gradient colors that I wish to display my data with. So I could select my own by clicking on the color ranges. However, if I have a tool template palette already created within IP, what I can do is actually load an IP palette. So this will take me to my IP 2019 folder. So if I come in down here, I can see my list of palettes and I'm just going to select my Schlumberger one. Okay, fit to the curves and press OK. So if I press OK again and wait a few seconds, my image will then be displayed. So as you can see, this is using the same colours as it was in IP. To display the NMR data is much simpler. If I'm using a IP to IC common database, once I've created the IC side of my database, that curve will then be available to visualize. And again, all I would do is go to Insert, my data panel, Add, Composite, Array Log, select the curve that I'm interested in, so my T2 distribution, and this time instead of gradient I'm going to select waveform. So I can leave my curves as they are at the moment if I fit my curves, however I actually want to add some cutoffs, so I'm just going to put that as 0. I'm then going to select the appropriate colour and press OK. And there I have it. I've taken my data from IP and started working with it immediately within IC. Thank you for your time.